Hey guys, welcome back to Engineering Mind. In today's video, we will be diving into two crucial techniques, that is debouncing and throttling, that is crucial in optimizing your JavaScript code. Either it will be in simple JavaScript or HTML, or it will be in React. Okay, so we will be covering out all the differences between debouncing and throttling, where we should use debouncing and where we should use throttling. If you watch this video start to end, you don't have to look for any other video on internet for interview preparation or the implementation of debouncing, throttling, or any confusions regarding that. Okay, so let's quickly start up with the video. Let's create a blank React app. Open a terminal on a folder where you want to create the React app. Write the command npx create React app. I'm naming it as debouncing throttling. It will take some time. In the meantime, let's see this documentation. You will get the link of this documentation in the description. So let's see this question. That is one of the important question in interview also. So what is debouncing in context of web development, right? So debouncing is basically to not call a function too often. That will also cause the performance issue. And if we are calling any APIs, then it will also result in a lot of unnecessary API call. So to manage this, we will be using debouncing, and you can go through the documentation and we will be directly seeing its implementation, and while coding we will be getting an understanding like how it will be implemented and why it should be implemented and what it results, right? What is its final result, how it will be decreasing the number of API calls or number of function calls, right? Okay, so when it's done, I will be back. Done. Let's drag and drop our folder to VS Code. Let's type npm start. It is a command to start the React app. Alright. Let's remove this piece of code like we do in every video. Remove this app.css, index.css, and let's create one components folder. Let's create one file, name it as debounce, type rfc. Let's import this to app.js. Why it is not importing debounce.js? Okay, let me create the basic UI so that I can be more focused on debouncing. Let's create one h1 tag. Let's write here debouncing, debounce, and let's create one input field. Place folder as search. Let's create one state to store the text, like value of this input field. Provide the value to it as text, and on change of this input field, we will be updating our state, right? Set text as e dot target dot value on it. So we have an input field and we can type here something. Let's create one function that will be executed on change of this input field, like whenever the user types. Let's create one function that will be basically to demonstrate like how we will be fetching up the data from an e-commerce website, or if we have any social media app, then we will be fetching up the post or something like user search. We will be fetching up the related post or user, like we see on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, right? Let's see it in the real world example. Okay, why it is not expanding? Flipkart. Let's search here something. So whenever we type something, it is searching the result, fetching the data, and it is showing here, right? If I type here mobile, it is again fetches the result and it is mapping here, right? So whenever we type here something, it fetches the data based on that. So basically we will be demonstrating a debouncing from this input field, like how it is be used in a real world project. Okay, let's see. Let's create one function, and in that function just we will be consoling up like fetch data or something. Let's make one fetch data. Let's accept some text so that we can also have an understanding like how we can pass the parameters from parents to child. And let's do it here, like fetch data, and we'll be passing it dot target dot value. So let's first type here something like mobile. So if I type here MOBU, so it is running this function for 4 times, right? So if we have an API call, so it will be fetched 4 times, right? So it results in an unnecessary API call. So the result that will fetch for the complete mobile word, not for AIM or AMO. So it will not be useful for the user also. So it will result in unnecessary API calls. So we will be managing up this with the help of a debounce function that will accept a function and a delay, and it will result another function that will be executing after the particular delay that we are passing to that function, right? Okay, let's see it. Let's make a function debounce, right? It will return another function. And let's make one ref here. Use ref. So this time ref is to basically store the ID of that particular set timeout. Let me show you. Let me write the first if timer time ref dot current has something, then it will be clearing out this timeout with the time ref dot current. So it will be storing the ID here, time ref dot current. And after clearing out this, it will set the time ref dot current as set timeout. We will be passing up an callback here, and with a delay, and we will be accepting our delay and callback here, fn for function and delay. You can write anything, and we will be running our function here, and we will be passing all the arguments here. Okay, so this particular function holds the concept of complete debounce, as it accepts a function and a delay, and it runs the function with that particular delay with the help of a set timeout. Let me make one debounced fetch data function. And instead of fetch data, we will be running our debounced fetch data. Let's refresh it. Type here test. We can see this function is called for only one time, right? If we write here 1000 millisecond, that means 1 second. So this function waits for the user to stop typing for 1 second. After that particular time, this fetch data function will run. Let me demonstrate you. So we are typing here something. We are not stopping for 1 second. So it is not fetched. Now as we stop for 1 second, it fetches the data, right? That is executing this fetch data function. This is how you can control the number of API calls. When you know the use case from your product team, you will get an understanding like how much time you want to stop or something, so that you can fetch the data. Alright, so this is what a debounce is. This particular function holds the complete concept of debouncing. Let me go through this once again, and then we will be starting off with the throttle, and after that I will be explaining like the use cases of debouncing and throttling. Okay, so this particular state is to store the text of this input field. we are running fetch data. We are not actually making an API call, but we are consoling that this fetch data will be fetching one data from the API. We are assuming this, and for now we are consoling a result like fetch data, fetch the result for this particular text, and we are passing our text here. That is ultimately passed from this debounce fetch data. Alright. So this debounce function is taking one function and a delay. This function will be executed after this particular delay. So we have made one time ref using useRef hook. If that time ref has something, then it will clear out this timeout and it will set a new timeout with this particular delay. And we are using this here, and we are making one debounced fetch data where we will be using this debounce, and we will be passing our fetch data and a delay, and our debounced fetch data function is ready, and we are passing out our text from here, and this function is running after this particular delay. This is what a debouncing is. This is helpful in reducing the number of API calls, unnecessary API calls, and also it is helpful in like performance optimization as it reduces the number of function calls, right? Let's make one component for throttle.js. Let's comment out this debounce and let's import our throttling here. Okay, we can see throttle here. Let me make this same basic UI so that I can explain the throttling in depth. Okay, so we have made one h1 tag with throttle as text, and we have made one button fetch ticket status. So we are basically demonstrating a fetching of our ticket status that we booked on any website. So if there is internet connectivity, the user presses this button continuously and sees nothing in the result, and this leads to the unnecessary API calls. So we will be basically restricting this thing, and this is helpful in other use cases also, like resizing of the window. Like it is a continuous operations and we want to pause it for particular time, and after that particular thing happens, we will be executing it up this function, right? I will be discussing up the differences between debouncing and throttling after we get an understanding of complete debounce and throttle. Okay, let's make one function here. Let us for this text, and here we will be accepting our text, and let's call it as PNR. And on click of this button, we will be executing this function. And let's write here something. This will be the PNR, right? Let's refresh this. So we are clicking here 12 times and it runs this function for 12 times, right? So we want to strip this function, as maybe there may be some internet issues or something. That's why it is taking much more time than usual. So the user thinks that this is not working and he starts pressing up this button. So this ultimately results in number of API calls that is not necessary, right? So basically we want to fetch the data and we will be pausing up for a particular time, and after that we will be again allowing the user to like make the fetch request, right? So let's make one throttle function here, and for more understanding, let's make one state here for count, and we will be showing up here on the UI so that you can get an understanding instead of seeing here 17. Maybe it is not seen as it is still smaller text. Let's here 0, and let me 5 as count is. Alright, let's do it as h3, and on click of this fetch data, we will be consoling this and we will be increasing our count. Alright. As count plus 1, this will create one issue. So this will create an issue. So we'll be increasing up our count with count plus 1. Okay, we can see the number of times we are clicking, the count is increasing, right? So we want to strip the user for particular time. So let's make that throttle function. Let us store our throttle using our useref hook. Let's make throttled throttle, and for the first time we will be keeping it as false. So for the first time it is not throttled. So whenever it is throttled, we will be not executing our function. But when our throttle function found that this throttle variable has a false, like this is not throttled, so it will be executing our function, right? So let's write one condition. So if not throttled dot current, then we will be making our throttle dot current as true, and we will be running our function, and we will be passing all our arguments here, and we are making one set timeout, and here after that particular time we will be setting this throttle dot current as false. So what it does, so for the first time this function runs, it satisfies this condition and it comes here, and we are making this throttle as true, and we are running our function. Whatever delay we pass here, with that particular time we will be setting up it as false. And so when it is true, it doesn't run this particular function. That is ultimately making one API call or running some of the heavy calculations. Alright, so let's create our throttle fetch data function. Okay, so it will be using throttle, and we are passing our fetch data here, and we are passing 500 milliseconds. And instead of fetch data, we will be adding throttle fetch data. Let's see. It is running for 22 times, right? Let me see how it is performing this thing. Okay, so it is not running as we made throttle dot current. So we are putting an key in this throttle with a true. So we need to make this throttle as true, and let's refresh it. So it made 2 API calls. So at every 500 milliseconds, it is running this particular function, right? So we made only 4, and if we can store our count variable, we can see how many times we clicked, right? Let me show you with that. Original, set original, and we will be set original as original plus 1. And let's duplicate this. Let's see here, like how many times we are clicking originally and how many times it is making the API calls. So user clicking it for 15 times and the count will be 4 times. That is, it is making an API call for 4 times. If we made here 1000, it will reduce to 2, right? Wait, we have clicked for 12 times and it fetches the data for the 2 times for this particular PNR, right? So this is what a throttling is. Like, we will be restricting our operation for this particular time. Based on our use case, we will be executing this function first, or we can execute it after the delay, right? So if we put this here, we will be executing this particular function at the end, right? So after the 1 second, it will be executing this particular function. So for this use case, we will be fetching our data and we will be stopping this user to press this button and make another unnecessary API call. Okay, let's see what is the difference between these two, right? Let's see from this documentation also. So this is general question. When you should use debouncing versus throttling, right? This is what we are discussing. So use debouncing when you want to delay execution of a function until a pause or a idle period occurs, right? Use debouncing when you want to delay the execution of a function until a pause or idle period occurs, right? And use throttling when you want to ensure the function is executed at a regular interval, regardless of how often an event occurs, right? Like how often the event occurs, you want to run this function at that particular interval, right? And for throttling, this is the case. And for debouncing, this is the case, like we will be pausing for this particular interval and after that we will be fetching up this data, right? This is the two use cases where we want to pause for some time, then we will be using debouncing, and where you want to execute the function at a regular interval of time regardless how often the event occurs. So this is what difference between debouncing and throttling, right? You can explain as it is in the interviews. So this particular documentation has the complete detail about the throttling and debouncing and all the informations about it. Please go through it once, and still you found any of the issues, please comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for such awesome contents. Bye bye.